So I heard that you're fluent in Latin,
Yeah, I'm a Latin teacher.
so I prepared all my questions in Latin. So,
Bene.
are you ready for?
I think so.
Okay. Airway is ye fa iberile. So, welcome back to Between Two Ferns. I'm your host. Just please say your name this time and don't read what it says, okay? And we're here with our guest today, Valerie Spiller. And so, as you mentioned, you teach Latin. Latin is a language.
Yes.
Where do they speak Latin?
In the past.
In the past. So, it's not currently being used.
Just to talk about people behind their backs in public.
Oh. So, would they call that's a dead language then?
Yes, it's dead if no one is learning it as their first language.
Okay. So you speak to dead people then?
Yes. Well, they speak to us. It's really a kind of one-way thing. It's a lot harder to send things back into the past than to save things and send them into the future.
Who's the most interesting dead person that you've been able to communicate with?
I do like Ovid. He tells myths. He tells you how to pick up girls. But he also talks about his personal life, and he's a very interesting guy.
Okay. And so, did you first pick up Latin or just start to learn Latin so that you would be able to read the signs at a zoo?
That wasn't my first choice, but it is very helpful. Although I got something wrong watching Jeopardy, it said the scientific name was Alces alces, and I said it's an elk, because that's what Alces alces means, elk. But it was in fact a moose. I was really disappointed that I was led astray.
So double elk is a moose.
Yes.
Do you have any hobbies?
A lot of things that were hobbies have been harder to do these days. I have picked up as a hobby learning Irish, and that amuses me.
Okay. So how many other languages are you fluent in? Or?
I've tried Spanish, German, Greek, and Latin, and now a little Irish.
And when you learn a language, do you like to go and visit the place or is that where you learn the language? Do you go?
I learned it at home first, but it's fun to visit. We will need to get some sort of flux capacitor. Keep working on that for ancient Greek and Latin, but plane trip to Germany, that worked out well. Another hobby of mine is keeping an eye on my neighbors who are squirrels. They grew up inside the roof of my neighbor's house, and now they live in our backyard, and they got to keep an eye on them. Sometimes they grab pizza slices and schlep them over. You know, they're young and they have these wild parties, and they're really putting on a lot of weight, and so I got to keep coaching them, make good life decisions. They're young.
So now it's time for the wild question of the day. What's the wildest place that you've been to?
I think the wildest place that I have been to is Costa Rica.
And why did you go there?
For a science class. We did, field observations, and so instead of like having a lab every week, we had a week for a lab in Costa Rica.
That seems like an expensive class to take. You have to go.
It was. Most of the books were paperbacks though, so if you think about chemistry books, they're, how many chemistry books does it take to get on an airplane? It almost worked out, depending.
So it was a chemistry class?
No, it was a biology class, but that was the most expensive textbook I could think of.
Oh, okay. All right, that sounds wild. So I heard that you are into podcasts.
I love podcasts.
So is that's like with Tide Pods, or I heard you're not supposed to consume those. So what are these podcasts then, if it's not the Tide Pod?
I like listening to podcasts about cooking or about architecture. It's interesting that if someone knows how to tell a good story, it almost doesn't matter what they're talking about. I like listening to other people, and in these times, we don't get to be around random strangers, so I download the random strangers to eavesdrop on.
So podcasts are kind of like if your TV was broken, but you can still hear.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
So we're here today to talk about Church in the Wild. What's your take on what Church in the Wild is about?
I think that Church in the Wild is for folks whose connection to the Creator and to their own soul feels trapped indoors. That even the biggest church building is not big enough for everything they think and feel and all the ways they connect to what's beyond our everyday experience. So when we're outside, it opens our hearts and minds in different ways, and people can be more comfortable to be their whole self.
And so did you become a part of it so that you could translate the ancient texts, or what made you want to be involved?
I always liked church, which is not usual, and I like very traditional kinds of church, but I think it's because I meet people there who are living in a full way, and they're honest, and they talk about things that matter. There's just a little bit less of a barrier between people in those settings. So I've always liked it, and I was really excited to be part of a new kind of church with people who have had similar experiences to me and different experiences from me, who all saw that this could be a really great way to be together.
Okay. And there's been a lot of talk about the workup of a mascot for Church in the Wild. What would be your choice for a mascot to represent Church in the Wild?
I think a fox could be a really good mascot. It's a vibrant red color, eye-catching, not really a camouflage, sneaky kind of mascot, really out there, really bold, clever, and gets into trouble but also takes care of its family.
All right. And so with Church in the Wild, how can others get involved?
Well, we're present on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We have a great website, and there's a newsletter so you can keep up to date with everything we're going to do this year.
And do you have any upcoming events?
We do. The Sunday closest to the solstice, maybe it is the solstice, on that Sunday afternoon we're going to gather here at Sky Lake, and we're going to have a bonfire to mark the longest night of the longest year. And we will be gathering together around the fire, and before that we will be feeding our animal friends with some Christmas tree decorations that they can appreciate, like pine cones with peanut butter.
Okay, it comes to that time again that I'm out of note cards to read, so that I'd like to thank our guest, Valerie Spiller. This has been Between Two Furs, and we'll see you next time.